And very scant details still trickling in on Operation Mahadev. We have a categorical confirmation that 3 terrorists have been killed, at least one of them directly linked to the Pahalgam terror attack 97 days ago. Joining me live now from the United States is John Spencer, Chair of Urban Warfare Studies at the Modern War Institute and one of the foremost voices when it comes to warfare, urban warfare and army and military operations. John, welcome. Thanks for being with me back here on NDTV. It's a big day. Indian Parliament, as you know, is debating and discussing Operation Sindoor, which is, the subject matter of one of your studies at this time. But the operation that took place, even while that debate is happening, has made the big headlines, John. You've just tweeted on an NDTV story where you've said Indian forces, multiple elements of special forces and commandos, conducted a high-risk night operation in severely restricted mountainous terrain to kill 3 of the terrorists who conducted the Pahalgam attack, to include the mastermind of the carnage. Elaborate on that, your understanding of what has happened. I should say right at the start that very little information has come in the broad contours of that operation as you've just put out.
Yeah, thanks, Shiv. It's great to see you again. As somebody who taught these type of operations in my own military in a place called the Ranger School, I know how hard and almost unimaginable to get into this type of terrain, not be compromised, to be able to do this level of precision. I've learned what I know so far from NDTV, so I'm anxious to hear more details. But it sounds like just an amazing special operations mini units to isolate these terrorists that were still there. And although it's been 97 days, it's actually quite miraculous to do it at this speed. If you remember, for the United States, 9/11, it took us 18 months to get the mastermind, took us 10 years to get Osama bin Laden. So a lot of credit to the Indian military if what we know is true.
Absolutely true. Let me share a few more details that have come in, John, that we're reporting here on NDTV. It is our understanding that this particular group of terrorists, 3 have been killed, but there may have been more. We don't know yet. It's an evolving situation. But they were apparently being tracked for about 3 or 4 days, which, as you know, is not uncommon. That's how intelligence works. They were being tracked both by, eyewitnesses on the ground. There are nomadic communities that operate and live in these hills where some of these terror groups may have been hiding. Drones were used to establish a visual confirmation of their movements and their locations. And then early this morning, very interestingly, John, one of them apparently opened a communications device that has been shut for the last 97 days, a T-82 Ultraset communication device, Chinese origin apparently, and that was the big giveaway, and the forces were able to pinpoint their actual location. Those are some of the details that are coming out, John.
Amazing. And it really no surprise, but you still have to give credit to the amount of the operation, just like Operation Sindoor, where you combine old things like human intelligence with very advanced new technologies that India has been invested in. Like, I know satellite imagery, signals intelligence, what you're talking about, picking up somebody's cell phone immediately as they turn it on, the ability to identify and blanket an area for collection. All of these things combine, the old, the new, in what becomes military dominance, this is another example of this. Hopefully some justice for the victims of the terrible attack.
Talk to us a little bit about the challenges as you understand them, John. You've seen what this terrain looks like. It is medium to high altitude. It is very, very uneven mountainous terrain, very thick forests, visibility low, possibility of cloud cover, very thick jungles, like I said. Some of the pictures coming in from the encounter site seem to confirm that this was an excellent hiding place, as it were. What sorts of challenges would the commando team, and the other cordon and search teams have faced in the final hours of this mission?
Absolutely. And I was listening to your coverage with the former, I think, 15 Corps commander.
Yeah.
A triple canopy. I served in a place called Panama. I understand where not only is the enemy your threat, so you don't want the enemy, which is really hard to do, is to isolate somebody who is clearly at a high level of readiness, but just the terrain to scale this. You need soldiers, men and women who can do hard things. Clearly, this is it. the ability to move in that terrain where there are very few trails, even though you wouldn't want to use the trails, but to do it quietly at night, especially where there's no ambient light, because night vision requires some type of light. And in many of these triple canopy or triple jungle situations, there is no light. So just the gravity of difficulty and how many ways this could have gone wrong. And it appears to have all work, even if you put drones in front of you, which are more of this old things that are really hard to do with new technologies, you put drones in front of you to try to help you. It's severely difficult. And I don't know if we can communicate how hard this would have been for the Indian forces that were involved.
It is really interesting because, a part of it happened during the night. The actual encounter happened in the morning hours, in daylight, which would have brought its own risks, obviously, because of visibility. And John, we've seen many encounters in Kashmir that have led to casualties, within the military. Not uncommon at all. Also because many of these terrorists are well trained. They're trained in special operations. One of the persons involved in the Pahalgam attack is known to be a former Pakistan Army special operator as well. So these are people who know how to survive out there and to fight back. So to be able to kill the three of them, again, I want to be cautious because this is still an evolving situation. It's not going to be easy to do something like that. These are not just ragtag terrorists. They're very well trained.
Absolutely. And they'll have triple layers of defense. So people imagine, somebody just quietly sitting in a room, oblivious, not a trained individual like this, or even like me. You'd have multiple layers of detection and alert outside of the area in order to get into those positions, and how meticulous, how quiet the forces had to be, how much they'd have to just stay in one place for a long period of time. Yeah. To create this extreme difficulty, especially against, let alone an untrained individual, but to do it against a trained individual in this amount of severely restricted terrain. I mean, you could have injuries just falling off the side of the mountain, which is often normal for soldiers as well.
Something else that's become a talking point, John, of course, are the weapons. And, when you get photographs from the encounter site, they immediately become the subject matter of open source intelligence experts looking in great detail at every little aspect of the photographs, how the weapons are arranged, how the bodies are positioned, how the shoes are kept, etc., etc. And there's a wealth of information that you get from photographs, and you'd know what each of these photographs actually looks like from a forensic perspective. But one little talking point has become, the weapons. The AK-47s, of course, are normal, expected. The Kalashnikov rifles are very much standard weaponry when it comes to terror groups operating in Kashmir and the Kashmir Valley. There's one picture which shows an M4 carbine, an American weapon. And again, not for the first time, but it's once again become a reminder in some ways of how NATO weaponry from Afghanistan, from elsewhere probably has made its way, and the supply chain of these weapons continues.
Absolutely. And we saw the same thing in other areas like the Hamas attack in Israel. Yeah. But because of the proximity to Afghanistan and how much the Taliban was selling the arms that were left for the Afghan army to everybody, clearly would make it into the hands of the many, not just one, many terrorist organizations in Pakistan with the sole intent to do these types of attacks in India. So absolutely, I also caution, and I'm learning a lot. Like you said, we'll hear the official briefing. What do we know for sure, and versus this open and source intelligence that can often, from the 5 mysterious planes that went down during Operation Sindoor to the other side where people are trying to leap to conclusions. I don't take a lot from seeing different types of weapons, even within the terrorists, although getting them into this area, I'm sure would be difficult and you might need external help.
Well, the Indian Army will be holding a special briefing tomorrow. I'm sure you're going to be tuning into that as well. Hopefully, many of these unanswered questions in an evolving situation, will get some clarity. 97 days since Pahalgam, and we do know that there is a clear link from at least one of these terrorists to the Pahalgam terror attack itself, in which 26 people were killed. John, always a pleasure. Thank you very much for speaking to me on NDTV tonight.
Thanks, Shiv.